Welcome back to another episode. Today we're talking about beer and gear. We'll give a quick rundown of our rig, then meet some amazing veterans who have created a craft beer culture in Clarksville, Tennessee, while helping each other in the process. We can't wait to share this inspirational story. But first, the gear. In our first episode, we explained the DD214 in our name, but then received many questions about overlanding. While off-roading and its extreme variations focus heavily on the technical aspects of driving over challenging terrain, the overlanding experience is focused more on the journey and exploration. However, no two opinions are the same when it comes to overlanding or the gear you need to be self-sustaining for overland travel. The best overland vehicle is often the one you already have. The one you can head out on an adventure with today. We have previously went weeks at a time with an SUV and a tent, but we were ready to take it a step further after resigning and traveling more. Having been on many deployments, we both learned to appreciate living minimally. Once you've spent a year at a time in a 5 by 8 foot living space, you might actually appreciate the simplicity. At least we did. That really formed the basis of choosing our Mission Overlander and 4Runner. We do not want to drag around a flimsy fiberglass McMansion on wheels, and we don't need a monster truck with endless add-ons. This setup will take us where we want to go. It is capable from the start, so there's no rush to change suspension and throw on 37-inch tires and new gear ratios. We've made basic changes, starting with self-recovery, as we hope to find ourselves in places rarely seen and don't want to be stuck in the middle of nowhere. The crew at Music City 4x4 in Nashville installed a new bumper, winch, and light bar. Inside, we installed rugged dash mounts for our phones, cameras, radios, and navigation iPad. As for the trailer, it's an aluminum and composite material construction, making it safe from mold or water damage. There's no wood to rot ever. It is durable enough to handle tough roads, yet light enough to pull easily. It has a slide-out fridge and freezer, and slide-out kitchen with a stove and sink, along with 37 gallons of fresh water storage. There's more than 76 inches of standing room, a swivel table for those rainy days, queen bed, heat, AC, and an external shower. We installed an incredible solar panel kit from Rich Solar. This provides all the juice we need to keep our batteries full when off-grid. On fuel stops, it gets quite a bit of attention. People always ask if there's enough room inside. Well, it's all we need. There's a queen-size bed and 9 storage compartments. But most importantly, this isn't a camper to live in. It's a means by which to live outside. It isn't an RV with all the bells and whistles. It's comfortable protection from the elements and hard walls between us and bears. So that's the basic rundown. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments. Now for our veteran spotlight. We have an amazing story to share. The emergence of veteran-owned breweries and taprooms in Clarksville, Tennessee has created new gathering places offering support and camaraderie. They are places for former and current members of the U.S. military and their family and friends to connect and chat all over a great pint of beer. We visited 4 tap rooms and discovered many commonalities, including that despite an underlying competition for the best brew, they are all supporting each other in their endeavors.
Major James Pradke, Team U.S. Army. The journey to becoming a soldier and eventually becoming an officer was an exciting shift for me. I was outside of Fort Leavenworth 2 years ago, driving to do volunteer work with a high school band. In the vehicle was my wife and myself. On our way, we got hit by a drunk driver who was doing over 100 miles per hour. The injuries that we incurred were multiple. It was the most challenging, difficult, painful, both emotionally and physically, thing that I have ever had to do in my life. When I was told I would never walk again, I said, "Don't tell me what I can't do. I'm going to show you what I can do." But the injuries that I had sustained were just injuries that would not allow me to meet the requirements necessary in order to continue in the Army. I'd lost my identity as a warrior, and I had lost my purpose. I became deeply suicidal. One day, I was driving past the adaptive reconditioning facility and realized that if I don't find purpose, that this is it. This is the end.
My son lost his right arm. Funda had crushed several bones in her ankle. And while my son took the most tragic part of the accident, I took the brunt of the accident. So I had a broken L1, several broken ribs. I have metal in my hip and my femur now, and several broken metatarsals.
Leaving my country, changing my country, coming to United States and starting fresh from zero, starting over for love. I followed him to United States. And coming here, leaving everything behind, I had to be resilient. And because he was in the Army, he was gone pretty much all the time. So I had to get myself up and find my life again by myself. The biggest one was of course, the car accident. In 2015, we lost everything. We lost our careers. We were misplaced in Chicago for a year in a wheelchair. So it was either we accept the failure, we retire, and we just don't do anything, and we feel sorry for ourselves, because it was a perfect opportunity to feel sorry for ourselves and find the excuses, find the stories, and hide behind it. Or we were going to follow what we always believed: make a difference, be an example to our children, to the society, to ourselves. So I will say that was also the biggest accomplishment in my life. We were able to stand back up, forget what happened, but learn from what happened, and then show people, no matter where you are, no matter what situation you are, no matter what you lost in your life, you can actually get back up again, and then you can be an example to other people, so they can take hope from your journey, from your story.
And so I told him I would not leave that rehab facility unless it was on my own 2 feet. And that's exactly what I did. About 7 months later, I walked out of there on my own 2 feet. Since then, it's been all about how do you bounce back from that. And throughout life, we all have setbacks. We all have major catastrophic events. And if you're not living, right? If you don't have, you probably haven't lived. But we have all these different things that hit us from all different parts, all different angles and aspects, and we go through such. Life is a tragedy, it's like a Shakespeare tragedy, and so. But the bottom line is we can all bounce back from that. We can all come back, but we've got to have the drive and the desire to do so. We can't let life's happenings defeat us. And so Gladiator, right? Gladiators are in the arena. They have a choice. They can either lay down and die, or they can get up and fight each and every day. And they are slaves to life. Gladiators were slaves mostly. They're slaves to life. So all of that is, we bleed that. That's all built into the essence of what Gladiator Brewing Company really is. Founded the brewery in 2018 after the Army told me I had to find Plan B. I medically retired in June of 2018, and that was after 18 years of service. And so they always say get into business in something you love. and I love brewing beer. I had been doing it for about 10 years at that time, and decided, you know what, I'm gonna open a brewery. But this was something that was very lucrative and just seemed like, at that time, I think Clarksville only had 2 or 3 breweries. We had Black Horse and I think Tennessee Valley. So it seemed like a good idea. I didn't know that we were going to explode as a brewing community here in Clarksville. I think we all get along tremendously. We all, you know, as far as like other veterans are concerned, we have a strong appreciation for what each and every one of us has gone through. Even though we may not know each other's backstories, like militarily, we have an appreciation that just kind of comes with it. So any time that we all get together, we very much, it's very community centric. It's very, it's like there's just an unspoken respect there for each other, which is great. Because in other brewing communities, that's not always the case, right? I want the people of Clarksville to know that when they come to Gladiator, they're on vacation. And I want them to forget all the other stuff that happens during the day and to come, sit down, have a pint, talk to your neighbor, and just revitalize yourself for the next day's challenges.
The whole floor is a taproom and an arcade area. When I was in Turkey, everything, all the restaurants, all the places, even the bars, they are more of family oriented. When I first came to United States, that was one of my biggest challenge after we had kids. We wouldn't be able to go somewhere and have our kids entertained with our screens, without giving them a tablet, or we would have to rush our food, we wouldn't be able to enjoy anything. So when James came to me with the brewery idea, and then when I decided to get involved, that was one thing that I wanted to add to at least Clarksville. Why not we make somewhere that is family friendly? We still serve beer and represent our craft, but also we invite families with their children, with their babies. So the arcade area was created because of that purpose. There are toys in there, there's a little gated area for toddlers, so parents can sit down when their toddler is playing with the toys, and it is safe, it is right there with them. And the tap room is, I say, come as a stranger, live as a friend. Everyone who comes here on their second time, somebody will remember their face, somebody will remember their name.
Gladiator, we don't need the money at Gladiator, but what we do need is the resiliency that Gladiator brings with it. Gladiator Brewing Company is a resiliency project for myself and for my wife and for my family. And we want to share that sense of resiliency with our community.
We sat down at Tap House 57 to hear the story of father and son veterans who also represent 2 generations of firefighters. Joe, the father, retired after 28 years of federal service, 24 of which was in the fire service, and is an Army veteran. Jeremy, his son, followed his father's footsteps as a firefighter for Fort Campbell and is an Air Force veteran. We were joined by co-owners of the area's newest brewery, The Fallen. Nate and Heather are a husband and wife team with a brewery concept born out of Nate's military service with the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment Airborne, and the desire to pay respects to those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice, and to honor the men and women who serve our country and the community.
I'm glad you guys could come out this morning and have this conversation. So what really drew us to this, as we spotlight veteran-owned businesses in each area that we go to, we were really drawn in just that there were so many veterans in this area who were really supporting each other. And you guys, 2 different businesses, along with a few other breweries here that are veteran-owned, you all seem to be supporting each other, and that's just amazing what you're doing for each other. But before we get into that, just tell me a little bit about, we'll start with Tap House 57. What was your idea about the kind of place that you wanted to bring here?
We had talked about opening up a firefighter themed atmosphere place for everybody to hang out for a while. And then at the beginning of last year, we actually put it in motion. We have 16 taps. Everything on tap is Tennessee beer all the way from Memphis to Knoxville, and we plan on keeping it that way.
And that's a key thing too, is Tennessee beer. You take time and put a lot of scrutiny into what kind of beers you have in here, and a lot of that is the local beers, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, as well as regional in Tennessee.
We developed our business plan as we were sitting there at the table drinking, because since I am retired, and we went to a lot of breweries and drank to come up with this plan. Of course, after 3 or 4 beers, you can build whatever you want to. You're entrepreneur. And it was just we didn't really want to brew beer. We wanted to have a platform for our local brewers, because we have some of the best local brewers here in Clarksville, Montgomery County area, that could almost fill up the whole all the taps we have with all the beers they have. What we decided is, let's just give our local brewers a platform to put their beer in. No charge for taps, nothing. We just buy your beer, put it here, and then everybody could come here and taste what they like, and then they can go out to the breweries and visit them and stuff like that.
Exactly. And then part of that too is not just breweries, but you guys have done a lot marketing for your surrounding businesses.
Oh, yes.
And tell us about that too, because you serve a few food items here, but you also encourage people to bring their own food or have delivery from nearby places.
We have just a couple small appetizers. Since we're not a restaurant, we encourage our customers to bring food in from wherever they want to bring food in.
And then it's a real family atmosphere. I mean, I can see in the corner of the room over here, Battleship and Monopoly and all those board games, and every table seems to have something for any family member.
Well, we're trying to get them off their phones while they're in here too. So we get them off their phones. We have little board games. The wooden board games, are kind of simple games that everybody could play. We want you to bring your kids in and to know that they're not going to be exposed to some outrageous conversations and stuff, because we're pretty mellow.
And there's a real distinction between the kind of place this is. This is not a bar, it's a, and how would you describe it?
I describe it in the way we've had to describe it for like Yelp and Google and stuff, as a beer garden, or because tap room isn't out there, tap house isn't out there.
All right, now Nate and Heather, you guys are one of the newest to open up. So new that your grand opening is coming up pretty quick here. Tell us about how you got started in this kind of business.
Well, I've actually been home brewing for coming up on 12 years now. Started my journey in Germany realizing that I liked quality beer and I didn't like paying a premium for it. Coming back to the States, realized that in order to drink good beer, you gotta pay a fortune. So I started home brewing just to kind of offset that, and as I progressed down that road, everyone's dream of a home brewer is, I could open up a brewery. Quickly came and went, and then had some friends that tried some of my beers that ultimately that's where that passion and decision kind of started to open up the possibility of, well, maybe I could do this. So as I was getting out of the military, I was med-boarded out, met this crazy one here and was like, hey, I buying a business, I need somebody to help me run it. You want to help me run a homebrew shop and open up a brewery? And she's like, well, I don't brew, I have no knowledge. I was like, I can teach you. And she jumped on board, and we got married shortly after. So for the last just shy of 4 years, we've owned the homebrew shop here in town, the Grog Home Brewing Supply Store, and then been working towards our brewery. We were fully self-financed, did everything ourselves, minus a little bit of electrical, plumbing, and then we did have a buddy that helped with a few of our tables that we have at the brewery.
And there's a bold statement right there in the name, The Fallen.
Correct.
So what was your thinking behind that?
So I threw a lot of ideas around early on, even before I met her, of kind of what I wanted, and ultimately it kept coming back to the same thing. I wanted to pay respect to those that would be willing to make that sacrifice, and then kind of dialing it in further. It was, in working with her, it ultimately became down to, we want to pay respect to those that paid that ultimate sacrifice. again, for our communities, for our country, and we wanted that place that they will be remembered. So we have started working down that road. Part of the tattoo is actually symbolizing that with the logo, each of the stripes symbolizing military, fire, police, EMS service. So we wanted that place where people could come in, enjoy a good pint of beer, and pay respect to those that have paid that ultimate sacrifice. You know, you look back on the Vietnam era and how those guys came back, the Depression. So that was something we didn't want to happen. We wanted to be able to continue working towards that. So each of our taps will be associated to a small nonprofit. We're in the vetting process for quite a few places, looking to see who's going to be a good fit, and then we'll give a donation from the sales of each of those taps to those nonprofits. You know, whether they're putting back in to help prevent suicide, or for the nonprofits that are helping to give back to families of members that were lost.
And that's just amazing that you would do that, that you would actually designate charities to be able to continue to give back after all you've already given in your Army career as well. And so Heather, tell me a little bit about the environment there. I understand there's the big Viking table.
Yes, we actually have 2 long tables.
And that's really to bring people closer together and maybe make new friends?
It is. So we don't have TVs in our tap room for the specific reason of, with the long tables, we want people to sit with people they may not know and strike up those conversations and meet people that, you know, they walked in as strangers and perhaps they leave as friends, but to really sit amongst people within the community and just talk. Like they said also, to get off the phones, to play some games, to not be involved in what's on TV, but to meet new people and talk and have those conversations.
That's great. And then it's also very family friendly and dog friendly?
It is, absolutely. We love our little furry friends that come to visit us.
So that's really unique. Yeah. Now, from my memory here, other than things like, Black Horse, the first small brewery was probably Tennessee Valley Brewing with Eric and Wendy. Eric, field artillery guy, will be heading out to his place as well. And then also, what are some of the other breweries that you work with?
Every single brewery that we've talked to has been so helpful with us being able to get this spot going up. That was one of the things we would reach out to them, like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Good ideas, bounce ideas off of them. But we have Kings Bluff, which is downtown, Black Horse downtown, Strawberry Alley is also downtown, and then Star Spangled Brewing Company just opened up their downtown location as well as their uptown location. So they've, Evil Nash, also another small brewery downtown. They've all been very helpful with us trying to get this place up and going.
And the relationship has camaraderie, just like a military is camaraderie, fire service is camaraderie. So it was, every time you asked them a question, it was like, oh yeah, because they're proud of what they have.
That's great. Now, one thing I want to circle back to, because you were mentioning on your logo here. Now, that's also reflected in some of your beers. You have one, the First In, First Out as one of them, but tell me just some of the highlights of some of the beers and the naming behind those.
Yeah, so most of our beers are geared towards, like we talked about, each beer is going to be associated to a nonprofit. So as we were starting to officially give them names, we would start identifying them to an area that we want to work with. So the Filo First In, Last Out, our Hefeweizen, which obviously you can grab here over on tap at our brewery, is for firefighters. So kind of paying homage to them. So we're looking for a good nonprofit that deals with them, you know, whether it's for the fallen, to be able to help out their families or whatnot. Our house beer is 22 No More. We want to start working hopefully with the 22 Foundation to help prevent suicides among veterans. We got a few taps that are getting ready to be released here soon. There's a nonprofit out of the Nashville area that we're going to be working with. That again is geared towards giving veterans, first responders a place and an outlet to help bring them back to life and keep them from going down that path. So that was kind of our goal. Obviously family is very important to us. So one beer that you'll find, our Mexican lager, is actually named in honor of her grandfather when he passed away about 4 years ago now. She said she wanted to do a beer in honor of him, and so she brewed it up, helped her tweak the recipe a little bit, and kind of got named for that. And family obviously is first and foremost to us.
And Heather, I know that you may not have been a lifelong home brewer. Maybe you were. But now that you really seem to have you dove headfirst into this, and you're actively involved with all parts, right? What's that experience like?
It's been a wild ride, to be perfectly honest, but it's been a good one. It's been exciting and nerve-wracking, but enjoyable. It's really good to be involved with every aspect of the business, feeling involved and putting my 2 cents in, and working with Nate. It's been great.
Doesn't always go smoothly like that.
Just milk it when you can. Yeah. But what was it like? I mean, even having your first brew come off, your first batch come off, what was that feeling? I mean, is it just jubilation, excitement, or
it was
disappointment of, oh, I should have done this differently? Or?
No, so actually my first home brew was a Mexican lager. It was a brew kit, but it turned out really well, and I was very impressed with the process, and I was all about it after that.
I know you guys are crushed for time. We greatly appreciate you joining us, sharing your stories, and we look forward to continuing to share your story. And just appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on today.
Oh, thank you. Good luck on your...
My name is Eric Brandstrom. I spent 3 years in the Army after high school and so on and so forth, and it was a good growing up period of my life. I enjoyed it. I was artillery. So starting in 1990, I was off to the races on brewing beer, and over the years it's kind of morphed into what we have today, which is kind of fun. It's been a fun experience all along the way. Because I'm a veteran, I am really supportive of veteran organizations and the military, right? There's always a camaraderie with folks who have been in the military. There's a bond, if you will. Obviously, there are some like me who only served, one term or one contract, however you want to say it. In my case, and then of course there's others that have worked 20, 30 years. My father-in-law is a case in point where he spent 23 years in the military. So there's a lot of people who have given, right? And I think it's important to give back to that community. We do work hand in hand with like the Montgomery County Veterans Coalition, Reboot, which is a organization that helps people dealing with the problems of PTSD and thoughts of suicide and things of that nature. We've worked with the Green Beret Foundation, the Fort Campbell Spouses Club. There are many organizations that you can work through to help so they can do what they do. Right. And I think that's very important, and that's one of the things that Wendy and I have always tried to focus on.
Mm-hmm. And Wendy, how do you feel, or how do you describe your position in this world of brewers?
If it doesn't involve actual brewing, except once a year, I pretty much do everything else. So as far as, running the books, staffing, payroll, all those things. Now, once a year, I do actually end up brewing a beer, and we have that beer on tap right now. It's called Pink Boots, and Pink Boots is a society for women in the brewing industry. So what happens is when we buy hops from the company, a portion of that sales goes back to scholarships to send women to brewing school. It's such a male-dominated industry, so right. As women, we have to be there to support each other in this industry. Yeah. So we're very passionate about that, and that's the one time that I actually do brew the beer.
Yeah.
But other than that, if it doesn't involve brewing, I pretty much do it.
Yeah. And my outlook on that is, so I grew up with a mom who had her own business, and it was a very boys club kind of scenario back in that day. Now, of course, my wife is obviously a co-owner with me in this business, and I am still very passionate about making sure that women are successful. That's very important. And so any way that we can, promote that and support that, I'm all in.
So when we started doing this story, everyone, your name came up constantly.
Oh, thank
How
you.
helpful you guys have been. You got to talk to Eric and Wendy because they helped us through this or that. And it seems like all of you guys are helping each other. Do you have that camaraderie with the other?
Yeah. There's always competition. I mean, to say that there's not a competition thing going on, that would be false. But by and large, I think brewers get along. We try to help each other out. We currently belong to the Tennessee Brewers Guild. Our guild, because I think there's 3 different branches. There's one in Memphis, there's one in Knoxville, of course there's one here in Nashville. And of course we belong to the one in Nashville, obviously. And we all talk together, and now some of us folks are much further along in the development of their business. And, it's always good to be able to talk to someone who's been there before. Hey, how do you do this? I just ran into this situation. Have you ever run across that? What did we do? And, you're not sharing recipes, but at the same time, you're helping a person out as far as, guiding them, try doing this, maybe you should do that. Many people have referred to us as kind of a Cheers atmosphere. In case you haven't noticed, I'm very gregarious. I'm willing to chew someone's ear off if they'll let me. My wife is, she's more, I'm going to run this the operating system, and we're going to make sure that we're making the sales and stuff like that. But I'm the one that usually, I'm touching tables, saying how are you, are you enjoying your experience? And I think that's what people really like us the most as far as how we approach our business.
Yeah, I mean, we treat everybody as if they're family when they walk in, even first timers.
Yeah.
We're very laid back, very chill, So that goes a long way with new customers coming in.
Sure. Right.
Yeah. We work all the time, but
Yeah.
it's been really great.
Yeah.
I would rather do this for 80 plus hours a week than, work for a corporation where I'm just a number.
Yeah.
I've been there, it's not
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
So.
And between the two of us, we've been laid off 7 times. And one of the biggest catalysts to us actually starting our business is the fact that we've been laid off so many times. And when corporations make their decisions, they don't include you in that conversation. Right. They have to make decisions based on what they feel they have to do. And again, that just doesn't include you as far as the conversation goes. And we got tired of that, working in corporate America, and then all of a sudden, you don't have a job. Yeah. Literally, Wendy was told the week before Christmas she would not have a job the day after Christmas. And if she didn't finish her employment, then she wouldn't get her severance pay. And so it was very drastic and very emotional, and we got tired of that roller coaster. And we wanted to say, you know what, we're going to do something for us. And that's when we decided to say, you know what, we're going to do this. And this is the model that we're going to go after.
To be honest, when Dave first mentioned this idea for a story, I thought he was just out to get a beer. Very quickly I realized there was much more beneath the surface. These are stories of perseverance, resilience, courage, and community. Meeting fellow veterans is like visiting extended family at Thanksgiving. You pick up right where you left off. That is why there is a familiarity amongst all of these tap rooms. Regardless of whether or not you've ever served in the military, in a police department, or in emergency services, you will enter as a stranger and leave with new friendships.
On our next episode, we camp along the Mississippi River at Loud Thunder Forest Preserve. and share the remarkable story of Waverly Woodson Jr., a combat medic who exhibited heroic bravery at Omaha Beach on D-Day, but had yet to be honored for his actions. As Rock Island Arsenal renames its health clinic in Woodson's honor, a bipartisan effort is underway to ensure this unsung hero is awarded the Medal of Honor. We'll have a routine schedule in the coming months, but until then, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell to receive notifications for new episodes. No roads, no worries. See you on the trails.